Hi guys, I wanted to give you a knitting update. I've been doing loads of knitting the last few months, pretty much ever since probably November is when I got on a big knitting kick, and then I've just completed a lot of projects since then, and I'm loving it. It's weird because we're actually headed into spring and summer right now, which is usually, I feel like, when your knitting drops off a little bit, just because you can't really wear like sweaters and wool socks in the summertime, but I just want to keep going and I even have some ideas for summer that I would like to share with you. Let's just start off with what I'm currently working on. I have this, it's like a rich orange cotton yarn. I'm actually salvaging this yarn from a cotton sweater that I thrifted recently. Let me show you. I think I've probably talked about this in a recent video, but I could be wrong. It's this cotton sweater. It's originally from Old Navy. As you can see, I've already taken a sleeve off and opened it up to get my yarn. But I still have a lot of unraveling to do. I have done this for a few projects though, and I really love that I can repurpose the yarn. I feel like what I have mostly been able to find that's good from the thrift store is cotton, which cotton isn't my favorite material to work with when it comes to knitting, but it's great that I can find it secondhand and be more sustainable when it comes to knitting. And I don't think it's something I will do strictly in knitting. I still do buy yarn new, but I would like to find recyclable yarn when I can. Anyways, it's just a cable knit sweater. It's a pretty fine yarn. I'm holding it together to make it a little bit thicker. It's still fine though. It's definitely not like worsted weight. I don't know the weight of yarns well enough to say exactly what it is right now, but it's still a pretty fine yarn, even held together. Anyways, that's where I got it. I strongly encourage you guys to do that someday. This one, like I said, is from Old Navy, but I found one from Croft & Barrow once that I also use. I feel like Croft & Barrow is a brand that I find pretty often at the thrift store, so maybe look for that specifically, but just make sure it's 100% cotton. Or you could always do like 100% wool or 100% cashmere. But the one thing with repurposing and salvaging yarn from sweaters from the thrift store is that they are almost always going to be a finer yarn, so just keep that in mind. You might have to hold it together, you might have to use really tiny needles, and it will take you years to knit the sweater, but just determine whether or not that's worth it to you. I actually prefer using finer yarns, I think, just because I like the end product more. I like it when it's a thinner knit. It's more comfortable to wear and versatile, I think. Anyways, that's where the material was sourced. Okay, so I sourced the yarn and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to make from it. I knew I wanted a sweater, but I wasn't sure exactly what. So I had been pinning some inspiration on Pinterest over the last month probably, while I finished a different sweater. And I came across this shawl sweater. I think just on Instagram, someone had posted it. I think it was like an influencer's brand deal. The brand had sent it to her, and she just posted this little photo. And I really like shells. I don't really wear shell stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. I have a shell necklace and I wear that all throughout the summer. And then recently, when we moved into this apartment, I got these chairs, and I feel like this looks like a shell, like a clam, kind of. Not a clam. Yeah, a clam. And then our bed frame has very similar shape at the top of it. And I just think it's really pretty. And so I had that in mind. I don't like navy blue. I don't like wearing navy blue. I don't think it looks very good on me. I don't think it's really in my color palette. And so I was thinking, I wonder if I could put a shell on this sweater but with a darker orange background. And I just had to play around with it because I feel like a lot of the times when you see more of those ocean, beachy type of apparel, they're often paired with navy blue. And so I wasn't sure if I could do it and it would still look okay. So I actually did a few test swatches just to see how it would work. So first, I created my own knitting chart, color work chart for a clam. I'll put a picture so you can see it up close. But I think it turned out really good. I'm calling it a clam, but I think the original inspiration sweater calls it an oyster, but it doesn't really look like an oyster to me. Anyways, I'm gonna call it a clam because it looks more like a clam to me. I made my own knitting chart. It's different than, I could have copied the one from the original sweater. I chose not to, one because I didn't think it was gonna work. The yarn I'm using, because I'm holding it together, it's too thick, and so that the original sweater, if I followed that chart exactly, the clam would be huge. And so I made my own, and I think I did really good. I'll put a picture of it so you can see it up close. I will be making a few changes just to make it a little bit better, but for the first try, I think it turned out great. I used embroidery floss or embroidery thread to do the color work. I just went through my own collection of embroidery thread and chose colors that I thought would match it pretty well. Actually, the pink in the clam is from the last sweater I knit, so I had some extra, so I used that. But other than that, all of the other colors are just embroidery floss. Anyways, I am going to make a few changes to it, but otherwise I think it looks perfect. I am going to have to unravel this sample and reuse the embroidery floss. I guess I could just go out and get some new embroidery floss, but I would rather not. I'd rather just reuse what I already have, plus what else would I use the sample for. So that's the plan with that. I think that turned out really good, and also I think it looks great with the orange background rather than the blue. I think it looks just fine. So, and then after that, I was figuring out what I wanted to do for the hem, the neckline, the cuffs. I feel like I typically just go for like a regular rib knit, but I think it's kind of boring. I wanted something, I don't know, a little more different and creative for this project. So I created another sample. I wanted to do a, what's it called? A rolled hem for this sweater. And I pinned a lot of inspiration for it. But I looked at tutorials and there wasn't anything. I did some samples where I just did knit and was like looking to see if the edge would curl, but it just wouldn't. And I even went the original edge, I did a smaller needle size. I saw something about that, so I went down a needle size, and then after a few rounds I went up to the needle size I wanted to use for the whole sweater. That didn't work either. So what I decided to do was just roll it myself, and then every other stitch I am going to pick up a loop from cast on and then grab it and pull it over the knit loop. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not great at knit lingo. Anyways, just to hold it up into place so it's like a permanent rolled hem. So that's what I did at the bottom of this sample. And then at the top, I was thinking maybe for the neckline, I will do a rib stitch, and then I'll do the rolled hem on top of it. I think that would be really cute. And then I think for the cuffs, I will also only do the rolled hem, not the rib knit. I just want to do the rib at the neckline. So, and I think that looks really cute. I'm really excited for this sweater and the color. I love the color. And then I just did a just a regular knit sample so that I could block it and see how this sweater, or so that I could get a gauge for the sweater, because the last sweater that I made, I kind of fricked that part up. I didn't do a gauge sample, I just winged it, and it's definitely way too big. It's really cute still, but it's way too big. So hopefully this sweater will be perfect, but we'll see. Anyways, those are all the swatches that I did, and then I very recently cast on this project, and here's how it's going so far. We have the little rolled hem at the bottom, and I am a bottom to top sweater knitter. I don't know, that just makes more sense to me. And I've never done it the other way, so that's probably why, but I'm not a fan of raglan sleeves in sweaters. I don't think it's flattering for me. Probably because of my shoulders, I don't know. So I'm not a fan of raglan, and I know that's not the only way you do a knit down, but I just feel like if you're not doing raglan, bottom up is the easier option, in my opinion. So that's how far we are on this sweater. I'm really excited, and I'm working on it pretty quickly too. Like I just started this yesterday, I think. And hopefully I can get a lot in. I would like to have this sweater done before spring is done, which I know is like once June comes, so that's summer months. And so I only have a little bit of time left, but I think I can probably do it, but we'll see. Okay, and then I already mentioned it a little bit, but I just finished a sweater, and it's been in a few of my recent videos, but it's this really pretty swan sweater. It's too big. Also, this is the second sweater that I made. The shell sweater I'm making right now is going to be the third. And with all of the sweaters I've made so far, I haven't followed a pattern. I just create my own. I don't know why I do that. I think I want to have like all of the creative control. I have followed some knitting patterns, but only for socks. Other than that, I've made the patterns completely on my own. So I like having complete creative control on them. But as you can see, it doesn't always turn out great because of that. Like this one is way too big for me. The sleeves, I think I did a good job on, but I did a whole sleeve, realized it was horrible, and had to get rid of the whole thing and try again. And now it's great. The sleeves are perfect now, in my opinion, but it's not a perfect sweater. The first one I made was also not a perfect sweater, but I just like this process. So it's a give and a take. Anyways, let's see. This material was also salvaged from a sweater. It was a Croft & Barrow sweater, and it was 100% cotton, and I held it together. The yarn ended up being a little bit thinner still than the orange yarn. I don't know if you can tell the difference in the way they block. It's the same needle size, but the orange I think is just a little bit thicker of a yarn, so it looks a little bit better with the needle size, in my opinion. Anyways, I do love this sweater. I have been wearing it non-stop, and I think the color work is really beautiful. Last thing, I wanted to kind of update you guys on some recent knitting patterns that I just came out with. I have an Etsy shop where I sell digital sewing patterns mostly, but I just created 2 knitting patterns that are on there. Also, the first one is a sock knitting pattern, and it has a bow on it, and I came up with the design when bows were trending during the winter time last year, and I guess a little bit of this year too. And I think there are still a lot of bow-loving girls out there, but bows are not as trendy as they used to be, but they're very cute socks. I am really excited to wear them again in the fall and winter, just because they're a perfect little accent sock to like ballet flats or loafers. They're just really adorable. I made a mitten pattern, and I've never knit mittens, but I figured it out. But a lot of the knitting patterns for mittens that I had seen online were just like one thickness. Like they were just one layer, and I thought it would be really cool to have mittens that were double knit. which I also didn't know how to do. And so I did a few samples and I figured out how to do double knit for the whole mitten. And basically you just do two, but together. It's difficult to explain, but they're extra warm mittens. The outside layer I made with a wool, like a 100% wool yarn, and then the inside layer is a wool blend. But wool is a great winter yarn because one, it's super warm, but also wool is wicking, which means that water just beads off of it. It doesn't soak up water, and so it's great, especially like you can play in the snow with these mittens. One, because they're super warm, but also they are wicking, like I said, so they won't soak up lots of water. Because they're double knit, they can also be turned inside out and you have two colorways to play with. Anyways, they're just more versatile because of that. They're a really fun pattern. I think they're really cool because they're double knit. I think they're unique because they're double knit and color work. It is obviously very simple color work. It's literally just a heart, but they're really cute. I made them at the end of winter, and so I haven't had much opportunity to use them, but again, I'm excited to use them next fall and winter. They're super cute. So those are the two knitting patterns that I just created and are on my Etsy. I think my next pattern will be a sweater pattern. I would like that to be the next pattern, but it just depends. Because obviously the last sweater I came up with was messed up in a lot of ways. The Swan sweater that I made has taught me a lot about sweater making, and so hopefully this next sweater will be perfected, and the sizing will be great, and all of that. So I'm really excited. I think the next pattern I want to put out is going to be the shell sweater, or like the clam sweater, but I would like it to be more versatile than that. It'll be a very basic sweater pattern, and so I think I would like to include multiple edge finishes. So like you could do rib knit, you could do rolled hem, and then also I would like to include multiple color work knitting charts. So you could do a swan sweater, or you could do the clam sweater, or maybe a bow sweater. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking of, just to give you a really basic pattern that you could make multiple sweaters from, with multiple or with different types of yarn, and different color work options, but it's just a really basic sweater pattern for maybe for people who have never made a sweater before and want to get into knitting. Anyways, there is a knitting update. That's all of the stuff that I'm working on recently, and I do have knitting plans for the summer, but I think I'll hold that off for another knitting video, probably after I finish this sweater. I feel like a lot of other knitters in the knitting community have multiple whips at the same time. I saw a TikTok video where someone asked, like, how many whips do you have at once? And a lot of the comments were like 6. And I was like, how do you do that? I literally only have one at a time, and I think it's just because I'm impatient. I just want to finish it as soon as possible, but a lot of them have multiple knitting projects going at once. Anyways, I only do one, so I think that this sweater will probably be done pretty soon, but we'll see. Anyways, hope you liked this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you guys later with another video.